I'm sharing something. I'm going to be open with you. If you show me something that's more beautiful, there's a really good chance I'm going to change it. Oh, wow. And to me, that's the key.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sphere of Success, the podcast that looks at challenge and adversity in business and how we can alchemize that to our strengths from our personal development and also to grow our businesses as well. Because often when we look back, hindsight is 2020, and some of those misfortunes can actually be the best opportunities that we've actually experienced to grow ourselves and our businesses. And today we're going to be talking around the theme, which I think is really, really important, is the courage to be real at work. So many times we hide our vulnerability. We don't show our power in our vulnerability. We don't show the courage. Perhaps we have a mask. I know I was one of them that we wear to work, and it's not our true personalities. And sometimes that can really jar with our energies, getting people to know, like, and trust us, and how then we forge our careers. So today I'm going to be talking with the most amazing lady. She has been on many, many TV appearances. She has been mentioned in hundreds of publications. She has a reputation which is absolutely stellar. So before I go and continue, I'm going to read her wonderful bio. Today I'm going to be talking to Dr. Heather Browne. She is a doctor of psychology and a licensed marriage and family therapist. So you're talking to an expert here. She's a best-selling author of the award-winning Speaking with the Heart and TEDx speaker. She helps people recognize the power of communication. It's one of our most important skills that we have, and yet we don't consider our understanding, approach, belief, and therefore miss our possibilities. Living with a paranoid schizophrenic mother gave Dr. Heather a unique and powerful awareness that no one has the same reality, though we believe we do. And you know what? I stopped there because I got a bit emotional. For many years, I was that person that my reality was absolutely a million miles away from who I really was. Utilizing this revolutionary awareness has allowed her to transform communication within herself and within all other types of relationship. Dr. Heather, welcome. It is an absolute privilege to have you on the show.
You are so kind. I am so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it is my pleasure. And before we start, could you please show our wonderful audience today the most incredible book that you have written?
You're so kind. Yes, this is my book, Speaking with the Heart, and it's about compassion and connection in communication. To help us learn how to step into conversations, how to pace conversations, and how to actually have the outcome that you'd like to have and a better relationship as well. Available on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, or on my website.
Oh, amazing. And you know, everybody, anybody that is a published author and a best-selling author at that, I absolutely congratulate them because it's no mean feat with everything else that we have to do in our lives to make time to share this important information with the world. So thank you so much, Dr. Heather. I know that everybody, and please do go and buy this wonderful book because it is an absolute game changer. And so I'd like to start with the fact of it comes from personal experience. So everybody, if you get here, an alert, a trigger alert. If I get emotional, I'm an abuse and trauma survivor from childhood, and a lot of what Dr. Heather talks about is something which is very deep and personal to me. So you might find me getting a little emotional. I'm absolutely going to share this with you because it just shows you the authenticity of what we're talking about today and how our vulnerability can be our strength. Why do you think so many people in the working environment wear a mask that isn't really aligned to who they are?
I think a lot of it depends upon the career that you're in. And some places are going to be more amenable and understanding for bringing out who you really are. But a lot of places, you're there to work. and you're there to achieve, you're there to make money, you're there to take care of tasks. And so there's a concern of, I need to do my job and I need to do my job well, but I'm also going through these things outside of work or maybe within work that are difficult or challenging. And so we're not really aware how transparent can we be. And of course, as we all know, it depends upon the individual that you're engaged with if they do want to have more of that or if they don't, and to what extent. And so I think it's difficult to know how much do you want me to share who I truly am of my personal life, and how much do you want me to not, and to keep that private. And those are some conversations you can have in the hiring process or as you're going through employment to find out what do they want to know, how much do they want to know, how do you utilize HR or groups and things like that.
This is really interesting because I've never thought, and it's so obvious when you talk about it, is the fact that when you're a hiring process, of course, we all want the job, don't we? So often we put this persona into play that we think that people want us to be in that particular role or that we've adopted before and it got us the job before. How would you say that people can look at new opportunities, perhaps, and indeed existing opportunities? Well, let's actually rephrase that question. You've been in a role for quite a while and you realize that actually we're not static as human beings. We change, or something, we could have had a baby, or we could be going through a divorce, or we could have suffered a bereavement in the family. And this is all going to affect us. Before I go on to when it's new, a lot of people are going to be in roles and saying, I can't just show up in the way that I really am now because everybody's known me for like a decade of this persona that I put across. How can you help people that are finding there's a jarring in that person that they are perceived as and as to who they really are, or if they've come into that shock environment where it's actually changed through external circumstances?
I think you can utilize just that. I think you can say, I haven't shared something that I've been going through for a really long time, but because you just were talking about your grandmother going through and needing support with cancer, I myself have gone through. I think you utilize the moment where for some reason you're feeling there's a desire to share. There's something there that feels like there's an opening, either within you or with the other person. And so I think be honest about that. I've never shared this with you, but for some reason I'm feeling compelled to. Would it be okay if I shared something personal with you? And some people will say, I'd actually prefer that you don't. And some people would say, oh, okay. I think instead of going from the place of, I haven't been honest, I have been hiding, if we can change that viewpoint, I've shared what I've been comfortable to share so far in the ways that I have. And as I go through my life, I find new places, new opportunities where I'm willing to share more. Then it can be a positive instead of viewing it as I'm not able to do that because I didn't do it on day one. None of us reveal all of ourselves on day one, and we're continually changing and growing. And let's say you hired me 5 years ago. Of course, lots of things have gone on in my life in that time and in yours. And it might not be something that we've talked about. But in that moment where you're thinking or feeling, gosh, I'd like to talk about this, I would say that. For some reason, I'm compelled to share this with you right now. I hope that's okay.
Very interesting because, as you say, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you feel awkward or that you're putting the other person in a difficult situation. And you touched upon the fact that the other person might go, no, you're okay. I don't want you to share that. That almost sounds like a rejection and a reason why you wouldn't want to voice that in the first place because you don't want to hear those words from other people. So, how can you help people soften that if you are the receiver of this person who wishes to perhaps or is asking you, is it okay if I share X, Y, and Z, if I have you with you? How can you, as the person receiving that, kind of take that and think, okay, I have a choice? Because a lot of people they wouldn't know how to handle that necessarily.
Well, to me, if I'm asking something of you that I haven't asked of you before, you're not aware of what that's going to be. And so to me, you have no obligation to say yes. So if I recognize that truth, I'm offering something, I'm asking something. Would you like this of me? If you say, no, I really don't want to, I don't choose to receive that as a rejection. I choose to receive that as we're not stepping forward. We're still where we were. I haven't lost anything, but I'm not going to step further in. And to me, that's out of respect for you. Just because I want to share something personal doesn't mean you're someone who wants to be on that level with me. And that might be part of the reason why I haven't shared it yet. Maybe there's part of me that's aware of that. A place where I think a lot of us really struggle is if I want something of you and you don't give it to me, then I can be disappointed, I can be hurt, I can be sad, I can be angry, I can feel rejected. But if you haven't promised me that, if you haven't agreed to give that to me, that's my own challenge. It's not really yours. And so when we become aware of that, agreements are so important instead of expectations. So if I say, if you're
Mm.
open, I'd like to share something. Now, let's go to the other side. I would so much prefer someone tell me, no, I really kind of want to just keep this personal, professional versus personal. I would so much rather hear that than have the person say yes and then feel bombarded by what I said or frustrated by what I said or having to receive information that they don't want because I'm not going to be getting anything positive from them in that state. And if anything, they're probably going to pull further away. So to me, I don't want someone to pull further away from me. And so if I'm going to do something that would cause that, I want to know so I can keep that, go to somebody else. So I don't view it as a negative. I view it as great clarity. Beautiful. Then we will keep this professional and about work and have a lovely weekend, and that's fine. And I understand that that's what you're wanting with me. And so I can receive that.
Yes, and that's the thing, isn't it? To take it objectively as opposed to personally, because yes, we don't know where that other person is sitting within their map of the world in what resonates with them. And so from that perspective, we have to respect people's understanding of yes, no, I don't want that. And that's really interesting because on a number of occasions, I've been the person that has been on the receiving end of somebody's issue, and I haven't had the strength to set professional boundaries to actually say no. And I've gone away and worried about this for this other person to the point where I've worried about it more than they have. And again, as my life is was a chronically addicted to people pleasing person, I would then think of all the scenarios in which I could help this person fix a scenario. And indeed, that was not my place, and that wasn't something which was going to help the situation whatsoever. In fact, I now look back at it as meddling in somebody else's life. And then they realized that they had overshared. And then there was that distance that was created because they then felt, oh, I've spoken to Deborah and it's gone too far down the road now and I'm not comfortable. So I think, yes, it's a difficult one to navigate from both sides. But in the instance of business and leadership, moving on slightly from this, I have an issue and I perhaps would like to share and asking that person's permission. How do you how do you come from a heart-centered as it is in your book? How can you have a heart-centered communication without people thinking, oh, that's all going to be mushy and that's all going to be something which isn't really business orientated. But what you're saying from your book is you can be extremely strong from a heart-centered approach. I'd love you to go into a little bit more detail about that, if that's okay.
Sure. There's a huge difference in being heart-centered than in being sappy.
Hmm.
It's not about being sentimental and ushy-gushy. It's about coming from the true essence of who you believe you are and why you're here and your care and compassion for other people. So, a very heart-filled conversation might not feel sentimental or sappy at all. It can feel strong and powerful and directed, held. The difference is my ability or my willingness to care about your experience and yours of mine, and for me to care about your feelings and yours of mine. I don't think that necessarily becomes anything that is simple or as you said, sentimental or sappy. I don't think so. I think it's very different.
And how can we, this leading me to think about the whole culture of an organization and the opportunity for people to feel comfortable broaching subjects that are very deeply meaningful for them in a supportive environment, not that necessarily, as you say, everybody's got a right to say, no, thank you, I don't want to hear this in a professional capacity, but one which allows this opportunity to be authentic, and you've mentioned this word before, in business, so that you're building a culture of authenticity as opposed to perhaps the gray person doing the job and you can be taken out and another gray person put in, as it were. How can you bring the color of your own authenticity into your business communication while keeping um, your professional standing within the organization?
A lot of that's going to depend on the nature of the corporation itself. And certainly in this day and age, there's a lot of business coaching, a lot of help for teamwork to try to bring that in. If you go to the mission statement of the company and you find out where you align with that mission statement, that's going to be a key for you because that's going to be a place where you're committed. That's going to be a place where you pursue, where you're learning, where you're growing, where you're striving, where you're wanting to bring something that you feel is personally important that you can empower to this company. That's the concept of it. And when you have created that, then it's much easier to say, guys, I have this wonderful idea. I wanted to bring it to you. Came out of something that happened last night with my kids at home where they were fighting and arguing, and I was pulling my hair out and I was really frustrated. And I went, gosh, this reminds me of. Then you're able to bring your life in a way that can actually help the organization and other people. It's not, here's my personal life. I need to share this with you. I don't think that's necessarily appropriate in a work atmosphere unless there's something very important that someone needs to know, like, I need you to know I just got this diagnosis, or my mother's very sick and I'm concerned about how that's going to impact my work. But if we can allow our true self to be part of what it is that we are bringing as a benefit to our business self, it's really not that separate. We are the ones who make it separate because we think, oh, I can only talk about work because I'm at work. Well, but if my kids had an argument last night and I had this great insight that reminded me of a challenge that we're having with our system, I can share that with you, which will probably go into someone else saying, oh my gosh, I have that too. Ours is a little bit different though. Ours ends up like this. And we go, oh, okay. So then what do we need to do with that? Now other people are popping in and we're bringing our own life experience, which is what we're supposed to bring to work anyway,
Anyway,
in
yeah.
a way that can actually help and grow and challenge. And then it's not just my experience, it's mine and yours and yours and yours and yours, and how we come together as a team to deal with fighting or arguing or disagreements and the like. And that way, who I am is more complete in the work scenario. It's not just Heather showing up with a briefcase. It's Heather coming to work from home, from her family, to bring in all that I know from outside world and from within the work environment as well.
I love that. You've just opened my eyes to a new way of thinking in the sense that, and this comes to the point where you're talking about the understanding of our reality is not everybody else's perception of reality, in a sense that we're coming in and we're being able to bring in from our experiences from all different areas of our life. It could be travel, children, family, friends, the dog, whatever it might be, in a way in which we've learning from that and we're drawing that into work. Well, that's got to be a really rich experience. And it's something where when I was in corporate, apart from on a Monday morning, perhaps where people would just make small allusions to the weekend, everything else was being trying to find answers from within the corporation.
Mm.
And actually, once you start to look externally and you're actually able to voice that from an authentic position within your communication strategy, then you're learning from an exponentially larger pool of thought and experience that then you can bring in, which is really valuable.
Which we forget because
Yes.
I'm hired because of who I have been when I've come to this company. I'm not hired because of who I am in the company yet. And then once I'm in the company, then oftentimes my focus is just who am I within the company. But I was hired because of my life experience and my educational process and my knowledge of certain systems to bring all of that. And so it's us who creates that challenge for ourselves. We don't necessarily need to do that. We could decide all of who I am can be used to benefit in some way what it is that I'm working on here. Now, of course, we need to take care of the main aspect, which is I need to come through on what it is that I'm asked to come through on. I need to bring the best product that I absolutely can and do the best within the work scenario. But that is actually part of all of me if I allow it to be. So it's only us as individuals that decide, this is not something I can share, or I can only be this person here. I remember one time when I was working at a call center and our manager announced that she had cancer and it was severe. And it was a really tough afternoon. And she continued to do her job impeccably. And having that information changed something within all of us, and we were all better.
Mm.
Now, I didn't want her to be in that scenario, but all of a sudden, everything that we did seemed a little bit more important, and she seemed more important. And we came through. We came through. And I've had many times at work scenarios where something has happened. You found out somebody's struggling with something, and people come through, or they're having a baby, people come through. So we're people working within a work environment. We need to not forget we're people. We're
Mm.
not just a position. And everybody else are people too. And we don't know what they're going through. We don't know what's going on at home. And so there's that place for how much grace do I have to think there's other things that are probably factors in this and not just what you've just said to me in this moment.
Yeah, it's showing that vulnerability in a not necessarily in a victim state, but showing that vulnerability. I'm thinking about the way in which vulnerability, as you've said, can really bring people together and they feel closer to the person that has displayed that vulnerability. Um, I remember listening to a speaker who had to stop because something had happened tragically, literally a couple of hours before they went on stage. And the view of that person after they had to stop and restart. We were all there willing them, literally willing them to fight that battle and do the greatest job that they can. So I'm sorry, everybody. If you hear a slight distraction, there are some builders outside and they've just decided to put on, I think, a saw. So my apologies if that's affecting the sound quality here. But this is very important, I think, that anybody that's considering this being vulnerable, I think usually what happens is that people rally round and you find that there's this incredible support that you wouldn't perhaps have had if you hadn't opened up that area of vulnerability. Is that something, I might be wrong here, but it's from personal experience that that's what's happened. Would you say that, Dr. Heather, that's been your experience as well?
I think for the most part, of course, every situation's a little bit different. And you use the word vulnerability and you also use the word open. And
Mm,
I'd like to touch upon that because vulnerability for a lot of people feels scary. It feels
yeah.
risky. It feels like I'm putting myself out there and you might hurt me. So I choose to use the word open. I'm sharing something. I'm going to be open with you.
Mm,
Now, it's only vulnerable if I choose to view it that way. But if that's difficult for me to know within my office, for a lot of people, that word is a challenging word. I just say, well, choose to be open if you feel to be open, and then close if you feel like closing. Because that way you then hold on to yourself in the way that you are too. It doesn't feel like, here, I'm giving myself to you, and please don't hurt me or don't use this against me. And so that can make it a little bit easier for people. Um, it might not. It might not end up where there's a lot of support. But then you have spoken your truth of, I'm struggling with this and I want you to know.
mm,
In case you see that I don't seem quite like myself right now, there's a reason for that. Please keep me posted. And they might say, oh, okay, thank you for letting me know. And it might not open up into anything more, but it then opens a different door. Then you come to me, you say, Heather, I have noticed something. And you asked me to share, so I'm going to share it with you. What it also does is it opens up that dialogue. It's an openness to, please let me know how you're experiencing me, what I'm doing, how I am, because I want to make certain that I am staying on top of all that it is that I need to do and that I'm doing it in the very best way possible. That's an invitation. Would you please keep me posted on how I'm doing and how you receive me and how my work is coming through for you?
mm. Yeah. And it's then, I think that takes great strength in
Mhm.
many instances to be able to do that. And people often open up when things aren't quite right. They do tell us the successes and people, great, fantastic, I'm going to have a baby. That's wonderful. But often it's the tough things that are really difficult to share with others. Um, Thinking about having challenging conversations with people at work, what would you say as guidelines to people? Perhaps they've noticed a behavior in a colleague or that they know themselves that there is an issue of behavior with themselves that they'd like to address with a colleague. How can you help people in the first instance opening that dialogue that could be perceived as a challenging conversation?
Once again, I think it comes from the place of permission. And so if I felt something, I would say, Deborah, I've noticed something that I'd like to share that I think might be helpful, but I want to make certain that you're in a place that you're willing to have me share something that's just my experience. And then if you say yes, then what I say is, I want to make certain that you can receive this with love. I may be completely off, and if I am, put it aside. But I want to make certain you can receive this with love. And if you say, yeah, then I'll say, you've seemed a little bit quieter lately, or you've seemed a little bit down lately. And I was wondering if there was something that you needed some support, or if there's something you're struggling with that maybe you needed some help, or maybe I can help go over the way that I've done this because I think I can show you a couple of tricks and things to make it go faster. So if it's with the other, I ask permission. I've noticed something. Do I have permission to share? And then I'm very careful to make certain how I hope it will be received. I also completely open up that door of, this is just my perception. I could be completely off. So if I am, please let me know because my perception might not be your reality at all. And then if it's about me, it's more like we talked about before. Gosh, there's something that I've noticed that I'm struggling with, and I'm wondering if you might be in a place for me to kind of bounce it off of you to get some insights of what I could be doing differently because I just don't feel like I'm being as effective as I could be. And then see if the person is open to stepping into that dialogue.
I think
Most times you'll get yes with both. And if you get
yeah.
no with the first, I just say, thank you for letting me know. And if that changes at some point, let me know. And then I do not hold anything against them. I don't go into the coffee room and say, gosh, I tried to help Deborah and she didn't even want me to share it. I don't go behind their back to their manager, I leave it there. I've seen something. I think it would be helpful. If the other person doesn't want it, that's up to them.
I think you're going to be resonating with a lot of people out there. We all have, and I've experienced this in corporate life, not so much in having the business for myself, because there's a slightly different dynamic there. But certainly within corporate life, we get thrown together with people that we have no real choice over. That's the thing. It's a bit like families, isn't it? You're in there and you don't have much say about it. And certain people you're going to resonate with, and certain people you're not, and certain people are going to trigger you. And so it's having these conversations, but as you've said, from an emotionally intelligent perspective, it's not however much we wish we could go to the person, another person and go, oh, I had a chat with so and so and they didn't, whatever, they didn't take my view, or talking behind people's backs, as it were. Can be a huge temptation to do that if what we've done hasn't resonated with the other person. But having those challenging conversations and clearing as much as we can that atmosphere that sometimes builds up, that you just wonder, is it me? Am I the only one thinking this about certain actions and behaviors of others? And you can go for years, and I know I've been guilty of this, and I've never said anything. And it gets worse over time. And in the end, you're wishing that, I wish they'd leave. I mean, my life would be so much easier if they just left, but I was at fault in a sense because I never had the courage to understand how I was going to open something. They had obviously, as you say, the choice to say no. And it was just that lack of, yeah, I'm going to actually have a chat with them in the way that you've just described to see if I could gain more insight. And the times that things have happened, and again, I'd love for you to share your experiences of this, is that sometimes I've spoken to people, and because I got it wrong in my head, when they explain something, I'm like, oh, and we've got on so much better. In fact, actually, they've become friends. Do
There's
you?
a lot of there's
Yeah.
a lot that goes on with our behaviors. And so there's a place of just knowing that you do something in a particular way. I used to ask my children when they lived at home, they're adults now, share with me why it is you choose to do it that way. My both of my kids are left-handed. And so sometimes it would be just from that nature, but sometimes it was that was the way they learned, or they liked it more like this. But by having that information, then I didn't look at it like, why do you always cut your bread like that? Why? Uh, when we go out into the world and believe other people should do things the way that we do it, we miss out on understanding that there's other possibilities
Or say that again. When we go out into the world,
and expect people to do things the way we do it. We then miss out on other possibilities. I
ah,
do it this way because that's the way I was taught, or that's the way I'm used to doing it. And I'm probably going to stay with that because I'm comfortable with it and I'm used to it. So now it's a pattern, it's a habit. But if you show me something that's more effective, if you show me something that's more beautiful, there's a really good chance I'm going to change it. If you look at someone who is like an artist or a dancer, you see that. Oh gosh, if I turn my foot like this, oh wow. So they're open to that place of I want to grow, I want to change, I want to improve. There's a question for us to ask ourselves about that. Are we in that place too? Do I want to learn? Do I want to grow? And if you come to me and say that you've got something to share that you think that might help me, I'm going to want to hear it. If you come to me and say there's a challenge in the relationship because there's something that I'm doing that you're having a hard time with, I'm going to want to hear it because my goal is to be better as an employee, to be better as a mother, to be better as a friend, to be better as a coach. And so when a client says to me, Heather, I've got to share something with you, I'm like, please. And I tell them, oh my goodness, thank you. I didn't know that about you. Thank you so much because now I can support them better. If they sit there quietly and don't tell me, I'm hoping I'm doing a great job, but I need to know I am. So, something that I ask friends, people I work with, is there anything that I have missed? Or is there anything that you haven't brought up that you think is important? Or is there anything that you wish that had gone a little bit differently? Or how would you like us to move and do this even more so next time? So there's that idea of this is about growing and changing and becoming. You brought up something before about how if you brought something to someone and they didn't want it, and then talking to other people and being frustrated. If you have that going on where you work or within your relationships, you want to look at, gosh, my heart really is in the right place. If my heart is in the right place, I'm not going to go talk about you behind your back negatively. And
That's
so
a good point.
that's important to be aware of because I'm really not caring about you enough. If I care about you enough and you say you don't have room for it, I'm going to hold that private. I'm not going to share that with others because I'm not going to want to make you look poorly and ingratiate myself. But there's
That
the place
that's
of,
brilliant. I love that. I love that. That you're not, yeah, you're not there in your heart space. You're not there enough to be there for that person to respect their boundary.
and maybe that might be part of the reason they said no. Maybe there was something that felt a little disgenuine to them. I don't know. But it certainly is a good awareness to have. And to me, that's the key. Help me learn more about myself. We don't ever really know ourselves because I know myself up to the second of what I can be aware of, but now there's another second and another second and another second. And I remember there was one time where I had this big epiphany at 51 and I thought, oh my Lord, I'm 51 and I'm just getting this now, but I'm going to have a ton of those.
Oh, I have those all the time, and it seems to me the older I get, the more I have them. And it's just like,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I
I think
love young people because they love to think, you're so sorted in comparison to what I was at that age. It's just like, really?
but
Yeah.
that's the key. So if I go in with the idea of, I hope this will be helpful. I hope this will help us understand each other more so. I hope this will help me understand you more so. Then we can work better as a team. I'm also going to have the place to probably ask you more questions like, how are you doing today? How's your energy level? Do you need me to take anything more on for you? Or are you good? Because then I'm engaging with you not just as a fellow employee, I'm engaging you as a fellow human being who's an employee. And to me, that's really the difference. When our manager shared that she had cancer, she became a person to us in that moment and not just our manager.
Mm.
And it was important. So if you are in a workplace where you know that you would like more of that, take opportunities to see where that can be shared a little bit. Listen to other people. People are talking about their lives. We actually talk about our outside life more than we're aware of, but then we think we can't. But listen, and if you feel it's not a comfortable place or a safe place for you, then question that. What is it that I would need for that to feel more comfortable? Places have boxes that they'll put out, an anonymous box to put down suggestions or things that you don't like, and complaint boxes and all of that. And that shows that they're feeling hesitant about being exposed individually about who they are or what they think or what they feel. And so there's some work to be done there, but how wonderful that there is a place to say, this is a problem for me, or this is a challenge for me, or I wish we could have more of this. You want to have those conversations. You want your people to stay if they're good at what they do,
Mm.
than having the quick turnover. And so there's the place of how do we help make this be a place where people would want to stay for a long time and thrive and do well and enjoy the company and the people that they're with as much as possible too.
That was going to be my next question in the sense of, as we move on in this conversation, from an employer's perspective, bottom line is important. If you're in a PLC, shareholders are important. And the question is, well, what's this all for? What's it actually going to do? Okay, it's helping people, but isn't that all lovely and, huggy and everything? But what's it going to do to the bottom line? Have you got some experience that you could share with us as to how businesses from a basis of bottom line return, once they start to engage this within their employees more, that you can see you've touched upon the fact that employees are likely to stay longer, which is hugely beneficial for the organization in many, many different ways, notwithstanding the costs involved in actually getting new people, etc. Have you any other ways in which you can measure how this culture within an organization can help the bottom line?
Well, I don't have the record of where it's from, but I know it was from a business journal and testing that people left positions not not from the financial perspective nearly as frequently as from the environmental aspect of an employment situation, which I found fascinating. So people were
Mm.
staying where they were actually being paid less because they really enjoyed the environment and they really enjoyed the people and they really enjoyed the mission. Now, if you take that and you have people who are really committed, really invested, staying, working hard, I imagine you're gonna, if as long as you have good management skills and you're being wise with price point and advertising and all of that, I would imagine you're going to have a bigger bottom line because people are more committed. I know for me, if I am more committed to something, I try harder. I
Mm.
give more. I want more of an outcome. And so that's going to grow. I'm also going to tell people about it. If I'm not really comfortable with where I work, I'm not telling anybody. Yeah. Ugh. And you could say I have a great product, but I hate the company. People aren't going to resonate with that. It's the people who really enjoy and are proud and pleased with where they are who share so much. And certainly in this place of social media, dear Lord, it's free advertisement. I mean, I could put a post on social media today. You won't believe what my boss did. It was my birthday and they did, da, 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 da. Gosh, I love working with this company. They're amazing. And then what happens? You go Google the company. Oh, I didn't know they sold dog collars. Gosh, I need a dog collar. Well, let me take a peek. Look at this dog collar I got. My friend works at the.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's for the company, it's free advertising, it's third-party
Absolutely.
endorsement from the employees, it's one-to-many routes so that so many more people through social media can see this. It's not an isolated one-to-one, it goes through thousands and thousands of people. Reputationally, it's got to, I would think, really bolster that organization's reputation, enhance it, and also attract great talent because
Yes.
people want to work for organizations and they want to do business with organizations like that, don't they?
Yes. And so it's having that bigger picture of our people need to be important to us. And we want to have an idea a little bit of what's going on so we can support them and help them and come through. And we want to grow. And so companies that have seminars, workshops that work on team building and team trust, all of that is so vital and so important because it opens up the door for growth and improvement. And that's what you want. I have a the owner of a company who reached out to me and he got some difficult news and he said, I need you to take me off the wall because I'm about to go in and rip some new ones for all of them. And he shared he'd gotten all his results back from all of their testing on the success that they were having on all these different levels in the company. And in this one area, they were only 5%. And he was mad. And so, he spewed for a little bit. And I said, so you're going to go buy them a real big box of donuts? He said, I am. I said, yeah, you're going to buy them a big box of donuts and you're going to go in and you're going to say, I've got some great news.
Mhm.
And he said, okay. And I said, you're going to share all these accolades of all the others. And then you're going to say, and then there's one that I'm fascinated with. In this area, we're only at 5%. Look how successful we are at 5%. And think about how huge we can be. And we've got some work to do. So grab a donut. And I want to hear everything about what's not working. I want to hear everything about why you're not working this. I want to hear everything about the challenges that you're having with the systems of this, why our people don't know about it. We're gonna, have a come to Jesus and go over all of this to see what we can learn. And he said, I am so glad I called. And then he called me a couple hours later. He goes, it was one of the best brainstorms. It's one of the best brainstorms. People see the 5% and they're scared. They don't want to lose their job. But there needs to be a dialogue about what do we do here. And it doesn't have to be, I'm going to break your back and put you down and tell you that you're horrible. It can be, wow, we learned something really important. What do we do with this now? And if
This
you
is
have that kind of
brilliant.
environment, people are then much more willing to open up. Well, I've had this idea I've never shared. Please share. Clearly, we need everyone's input.
Yeah.
If you're crashed on, you're going to be scared to share because nothing's working. So your thought's going to be nothing's working. I don't know, my idea might not be very good. But if the door is open, I'm going to throw this out there. Sounds kind of quirky, but I had this idea the other night. Interesting. Who wants to try this out? Let's try it out. Let's try it out for a week and see what happens. It allows people to feel included. We want to be important at our job. We want to feel like we are going to be there for a while. We've got security. We want to feel like we're making an impact. Most people don't want to go to work for 8 hours and just get a paycheck. And most people want, if you think about cashiers and people who, the box boys, they're some of the friendliest people in the whole wide world. They know the impact of being kind and gracious and thoughtful. And oh gosh, you're buying a lot of tuna. What are you making? They
Yeah.
know that. And then I say, oh, I'm making my daughter's favorite. It's her birthday. And there we go. But it's the connection between people. It's the connection between business and consumer. It's the connection between business and employee. It's the connection between employee and employee that's so vital. That's our own little microcosm. And how we allow ourselves to see that in a bigger sense is what allows that to grow in a bigger sense.
Beautiful words. I mean, this is fantastic, isn't it? Because we can treat this at an individual level, then we can take this at the macro level and every way in between, so that that interconnectivity joins all the dots, and that you've got this incredible corporation, small business, micro business, medium-sized enterprise, whatever it is. And then that's when the magic can happen. That's when real scale and real power can come, because people aren't saying what they think that you want to hear. They're telling you real stuff that's actually something which you need to hear so that you can actually move forward. And as you said, you've just had that slight shift in mindset, and then all of a sudden you've got 95% opportunity to get even better than just beating people on the head with 5% that, we got, and isn't that dreadful? But look at all the opportunity that we've got if we got that right. I love that mindset. I think it is absolutely beautiful what you've said, Dr. Heather. And how can people get hold of you? Because I, for one, have found this incredibly inspiring, but yours is grounded in the knowledge of what you do. So you've got, everything behind you to stack up with how you actually operate. I know that people will want to be in touch.
Oh, thank you so much. So my website, Dr. Heather Browne, and it's DrHeatherBrowne.com. That's the hub. You'll find my book on there, Speaking with the Heart. You'll find how to work with me. I send out a newsletter. It talks about all the different things, programs, and all the things that I'm doing. My TEDx is up there as well. So love to have people take a peek and see what's there, and let me know if you have any questions. But it's been a delight to be with you today, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Oh, a privilege, Dr. Heather. I'm buzzing. I think this is fantastic. And I know a lot of people would be thinking, wow, and it can start off small and then it can be amazing throughout the organization. And isn't it just wonderful when that Sunday night comes along, that we're not dreading Monday morning, and that actually we're just thinking, yeah, I'm going to work and I love it and I enjoy it and it's part of my life. So that's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you so much. And to everybody listening, thank you as well. I think that, my jaw has been on the floor for half of this. I'm like, wow, it's an incredible opportunity. And notwithstanding as well, if we can shed some of these areas in our lives where we think, if I could be a little bit more open, as Dr. Heather was saying, in a respectful way to our colleagues, etc., I think there's going to be some tremendous transformation opportunities going out there, looking at people and speaking and connecting from the heart with all of that genuine authenticity. So until next time, It's wonderful to see you. Like, comment, subscribe, and share as well. We'll see you all again very soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye now.